right, welcome to the second episode of Hope Speak. Here we are with Anita. Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of who you are, and we can go from there?
Yeah, sure. So the name's Anita, or Baz, most commonly known as Baz, but either or works. So I'm an online coach and sports nutritionist. So I work online or in the online space on a full-time basis. Prior to that, or prior to this career, I was in the Army also full-time. So I essentially just did my minimum period of service, which was 4 years. I was about a year in, and I'm like, what am I doing here, sort of thing. I pretty much just did my minimum period of service, and then moved straight into PTing, as well as sort of put my foot in the door in the online space as well. So I discharged May last year. So I've pretty much just been a coach since then. However, during my time in the Army, or like towards the back end of it, because I knew what I wanted to pursue once I discharged. So I was sort of online or family, just like very cheap rates or like for free, as well as like working with other soldiers within my unit.
Like lab rating them?
Yeah. And like just helping them with their fitness goals and things like that. I was also like running PT sessions and stuff like that. So I did have like some sort of background experience before commencing like my PT business and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much me. So I also obviously like studied, got all my qualifications, became an accredited sports nutritionist during my last year in the Army.
And that was with Sports Nutrition Australia?
Yes, with Sports Nutrition Australia, and then from there, sorry?
And you did another one?
Yeah, and then now I'm studying again. So I'm studying the diploma in performance nutrition. That's through the IOPN. So so I'm about halfway in. So hopefully.
And how long's that one?
It's about 18 months. That's if you finish all your assessments within the due dates. It's about 18 months. So hopefully I can get it done by the end of the year. That would be that's pretty much.
Okay, so did you start that, a year ago? Or
I started that, just about a year ago. So it was a Feb intake. So I pretty much started around March. I was still in the Army. So I was just, sort of trying to work and studying at the same time kind of thing. But so that's pretty much.
Because you only left the Army, 6 months ago?
May last year. So what's that? May, June, July.
3 quarters.
3/4 of a year. So it has flown by. Like as soon as I discharged, I was just like head down, ass up into, running my own business and things like that. And last year was honestly just a blur. Like I can't believe we're pretty much February.
You have really taken off, and congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So going back, did you go from high school into the Army? Was there a bit of a gap, or you decided pretty early?
Yeah, no, good question. So there was a bit of a gap. So I essentially, I was a PT before I had joined the Army, only for a very short period of time. I was one of those, I guess, I've grown a lot since then. I've developed a lot as a person, but also as as a coach, as a trainer. But
you should. I still am as well.
And I guess that's the main thing, as long as you've grown. So I pretty much finished school, and then I studied my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, did my diploma in fitness. So it was about a year and a half of studying. And then after that, I just went straight into PTing full time. And I only did that I was like the typical, PT does it for 6 months and then they're out of there kind of thing, onto the next career path.
And was that because it wasn't taking off?
The
shitty hours, the split shifts, Yeah,
exactly right. And me being 17 years old, I had no idea how to run a business. I was pretty much like, I didn't have the empathy or the understanding to work with, your average Joe, not a 17-year-old still living at home and that sort of thing, So I found it wasn't that I wasn't I didn't have the knowledge in regards to training and that sort of thing. But as we know, when you're working with and dealing with clients, it's much more than just go to the gym X amount of days, follow this program, eat this and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So,
make it a priority if you care about it. Like,
yeah. It's like,
I was like that too.
Yeah. I think we've all gone through that stage. It's like, why can't you just do what you're told, kind of thing. So I lacked that, which is a huge component of coaching and working with clients. So I guess after a few years of being in the army and maturing and growing and broadening my knowledge and understanding around everything within training, nutrition, lifestyle, all that sort of jazz. So yeah, now I'm obviously like a lot more composed with what I do.
I was very similar. I actually did my Cert 3 while finishing Year 12 and almost finished my Cert 4. My English teacher actually helped me write my resume. And in my block exam, I applied, had an interview, and they're like, you got the job. Well, you can start Monday. And I'm like, can I start the following Monday? I got school this week. so I literally like started into it. So I had no idea what it was like to have a normal job outside of school. So there was a bit of that, and then I got into bodybuilding, powerlifting. Well, powerlifting first. Before powerlifting was cool. I was doing it, and then so I still didn't have that. It wasn't until later on when I like broke away from bodybuilding, kind of like got married in this stuff where I had a different kind of life. I developed a different kind of empathy and understanding. I was actually a stepdad for a period of time there too, kind of thing. Yeah, this is way back. Well, I was dating a lady 8 years older. Anyway, long story short, a very costly relationship at the end of the day, but I'm not going to go down that. But those life events has made me a better coach today than doing all my qualifications. And empathy, you said the right word with empathy. And that's why now I talk a lot about mindset, and also I'll touch base because I went through my depression and whatnot. I actually understand now firsthand of why I won't stick to a meal plan kind of thing or planning ahead, because like I would lay in bed for several hours instead or procrastinate because I didn't want to face things. So, and it's hard to include that in fitness or even the certificate 3 and 4 because fitness coaching is so broad, and that's not even getting from endurance through to muscle building and power. Like that's such a broad thing. So the fitness industry is very unregulated because it's so broad.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, like we each live very different lives. We each hold very different values. And it's important to be able to read and understand those values from a coach's perspective so that you can apply what is going to be the most feasible approach for that specific client. Because obviously every client's going to be different. And, you know, what works for one client isn't going to work for another client simply because their priorities are different. So yeah, it's definitely
a big thing I've learned is to continually ask, is this what you want? Like a few weeks in, because they start to do it, they may not want that anymore. They realize it's like, okay, then let's change the goalposts. And goal setting is like, I find that's the hardest thing as a coach to get people to do it properly. And to write it down. And structure it and have it measurable, time frame, you know, is it attainable, all this kind of stuff, the SMART goals I always say. It's probably the biggest roadblock I've noticed this month. Like everyone's like, I just want to lose weight, tone up. It's like, well, if you've got shit goals, you're going to have shit results.
Absolutely. Goal setting is so important. Getting pen to paper, actually like visualizing it, but also like when you start, I guess, dissecting the goal and putting pen to paper on what exactly are the daily tasks you need to do in order to achieve that goal. Once you sort of start doing that, or once clients start doing that, they sort of realize like this goal is actually quite big. Like this goal might not be something that I can achieve within 6 months. And as long as they have that understanding and that awareness, then they can sort of be like, okay, like shit's getting real. I need to get my head in the game. Or they can be like, maybe this isn't the right goal for me right now. Maybe I'm not in the right position to set such goals like this. Maybe I need to just change my goal slightly to make sure that I'm at least meeting something
Yeah,
within
100%.
something like that.
Or it's like they, weekends normally a little bit, and it happens like, well, with what you're doing regularly and what you need to for this goal, we're gonna have to shorten this goal if you want to have that. And sure, lifestyle is the big key. Like if you enjoy these things, like sure, obviously you're not getting completely shit-faced all the time, but pulling it back somewhat, but having that lifestyle flexibility. And people don't like having that conversation with a coach, because it's not exciting. It's not going to bring these awesome results that they dream to when they first get a coach. But I guess I think it needs to be pushed more in the industry. But it's hard because it doesn't sell. It's not romantic. Like everyone wants to do an 8-week challenge and lose 6 kilos and have an awesome transformation photo. So sometimes I'm even hesitant of sharing like transformation photos from clients because I don't want to portray it's all about just like a physical change.
Yeah, definitely. It's all mental growth, people develop as they move through the processes of achieving that physical goal, so, but you can't show on social media that how they've grown from a mental standpoint, it's only like what you visually see. Another thing is a lot of people, they might see coaches and their clients achieving such great results and living this perfect lifestyle in a perfect world, whereas they might not be in that same sort of position, like the online coach, like we can, eat when we want, we can train when we want, we're in an air-conditioned environment, we can get steps out when we want, and that sort of thing. But for say like a laborer who works in the heat and 35 degrees and he starts at 5 a.m., doesn't knock off till 6 p.m., he's got to try and get in one meal within the day, which is like a 15-minute window because maybe he's like a first-year apprentice.
And he's been whipped.
He's got to try and train at 7 p.m. at night, and then you're on the other end of the perspective going like, oh, how come you don't have time to meal prep? Like, how come you get to the gym 5 days a week? Like, you know what I mean? It's like maybe you can't adhere to a 5-day training program. Maybe, this specific meal plan of steak and potato in the middle of the day at 33 degrees probably not going to be something that he's going to enjoy. So
even risk food poisoning with the SQ staying cool or not. I've actually had a client get sick before.
Exactly. It goes back to that point you made about like, just asking the client, like, is this what you want to do? Like, is this feasible? Do you think this is feasible for you? So I think a lot of coaches and people miss that point. It's like you can't apply something that isn't, doesn't align with your values or doesn't align with your lifestyle and your situation. So
quick tip for any tradies out there, I've found dried fruit and and nuts just in their pocket, and they can just snack on a bag while they're on the tours. That's probably one of the easiest successes that I've had with tradies. So hopefully some guys can
100%.
start applying that.
Staminate as well.
So going back, sorry, Staminade.
Yeah, Staminade Gatorade. Just sip on that during the day. It gives you some electrolytes as well, especially if you're sweating a lot.
Yeah, I endorse it all the time. So going back to after school, and then you did the PT and got into the Army. What was appealing of the Army? What made you decide I want to get in there?
So I was I guess I wanted to completely remove myself away from the fitness industry. I wanted to do something completely different. And while I was sort of in that crisis, I guess you could say career crisis, 17-year-old career crisis, my little brother, he was thinking of joining the Army at the same time as well. Well, he was it was in the process of enlisting, and I always had an interest in joining the Army, and my brother was like, well, why not look into joining the Army? And then it kind of kicked off from there. So it's like, oh yeah, the Army looks pretty cool. So
So what did you enlist as? Like, what was your job?
My job. So I was so I enlisted as an emergency responder. So it's within the engineers corps. It's within the engineer corps. Keep saying corps. The engineers corps, and it's basically firefighting. Well, there was a bit of a stitch up with this job. So I enlisted essentially to be a firefighter in the Army.
Sick.
right? Sounds pretty sick, right? And then it wasn't until we completed our first component of our training, which was to do the engineers course. So you had to do the engineers course, become a qualified combat engineer, and then from there you move into doing your actual firefighters course, and then from there you get posted to your unit. That was the plan, right? So we did move through that plan, but during the plan we were told that the job role was changing and there's no more firefighting.
Okay.
So there was.
So they pulled the rug on you.
Yeah. So we got to a unit and we're like, okay, cool. Like, what exactly is our job, seeing as we're not firefighters anymore? And the Army were like, oh, we don't actually know what you do. So it was just like, my career was like a whole lot of like fumbling around as to what my job role was.
Okay.
Basically I was an engineer. Like we were doing engineering tasks and things like that. Without like much of the firefighting side of things. Road crash rescue. We dabbled into a little bit of that. Aviation, and choppers a fair bit as well. That was pretty cool. And just doing like hoisting drills and things like that. So if there was like an accident, we could respond. We did some cool stuff, but I wasn't really satisfied with my job at all.
And would you say you weren't satisfied because the expectation when you're going in, then it was changed?
I think like just not trying to like, I guess, badmouth the Army, but there isn't much happening at the moment, you know, like it's peacetime. Everyone's kind of sitting around playing with their dicks going like, what the fuck are we doing? But so there was like a lot of sitting around, a lot of waiting out, a lot of time, a lot of wasted time. You know, in the Army, you're either working or you're not working. When you're working, you're significantly getting underpaid for what you're doing, or you're getting overpaid for what you're doing, where you're literally just doing nothing. Because of that nothingness, I didn't feel there was any like purpose around my career, around life in general. And I started to go down this deep, dark hole of becoming really depressed, because I am a very like highly motivated, like keen individual. Like I always have something in my day to achieve. Like I'm very goal orientated. I always have to work towards something. And that was basically completely removed. And especially in an Army sense where your life becomes work. And I just had no sense of purpose in anything. I went through like a bit of a downward spiral from there. Wow.
And I guess when you're not working, you didn't have a lot of responsibility to like fulfill. Exactly right. It was just kind of like monkey see, monkey do sort of business. And you know, I was just a digger. Like I had no intentions of progressing through ranks or anything like that. And there's a common saying where it's like, you're just a dumb digger. And if you're told something, like if you're told to behave in a certain way, you will most likely behave and act that way. So, you know, being told you're a dumb digger, you'll probably act dumb. And so that's why like there's a lot of jaded individuals within the Army, which is a shame. But I either dwelled on it, or I had the option to either dwell on it and just keep being miserable, or pull my finger out and actually do something about it. So that's when I started to move towards, you know, the health and fitness career line or line of work. So that's when you did your sports nutrition.
Yes. And that's when I was like, yep, I'm going to study any sort of spare minute I had. There's a common saying or a common phrase in the Army where it's like, you look busy, and that can literally be walking around the troop with a clipboard and pen in your hand, or a broomstick, or just really mundane tasks, you know? So during those times I was, you know, listening to podcasts. I would hide in the change rooms with my laptop out, you know, going on webinars or watching YouTube videos or reading research articles. Like I was constantly, just every spare second I had, I was dedicating myself to, you know, something within the health and fitness kind of field. And I loved it. Like I frothed it. I was so passionate about it. And it gave me that sense of purpose. Like every night when I'd go to bed, I was satisfied because I'd learned something.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning I wake up knowing that there is something for me to do. There is something for me to learn about. And that's sort of what made me a bit happier.
Yeah. Progressing towards something and responsibility, they're like two big things that Jordan B. Peterson always talks about. I listen to a lot of his stuff. And taking on responsibility was a big thing for me, because literally when my marriage went to shit, divorce, my father had died, I just pretty much just packed my car and drove down to Gold Coast. Like that was my plan, to start fresh. And I left like my responsibilities as well. I left my apartment back there. I just left everything. And because I didn't have a lot of even stuff with me, I got even deeper into a depression because I just didn't have responsibility. I had a few of my clients at the time and I was trying to rebuild. So it rings a lot, like a big bell to me about taking on responsibility. And it's just small things too. Those tiny promises that you make to someone, like follow up, message through, or whatever. So moving on from that, so sport, I got a little list here. So your previous sport, so even going back to primary school, your sporting history.
Okay. I kind of dabbled into a few sports, but my main sports growing up as a child was swimming and tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of ironic that it's tennis. So being Japanese, like, I don't know. Tennis or golf. And I really didn't have patience for golf, so it was tennis for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I had, I was competitive in both.
Mm-hmm.
Up until I was about 12 years old, about 13 years old. And I had anger issues on the court. So I was like, I might ditch the tennis and I might just stay in the swimming pool where I'm not getting angry at anyone. I was a competitive swimmer for close to 10 years. So I did reach a national level.
Awesome. So
I competed at states and then competed at nationals. I was basically just a water girl my whole life, essentially. I guess fitness had always been a big part of my life because of my sporting background. So, from the age of 12, I was training 7 days a week. And then by the time I was 14, I was training, 8 to 10 sessions a week. And that basically carried on through till I was like 16, 17. And that's when, boys and drinking came into the picture. And I was like, I'm kind of done with swimming now.
Especially if you're not making money from it yet, like that 16, 17, there's probably people starting to get scholarships or whatever, or deals, potential qualifiers for Olympics or whatever it may be. I guess it was me with football. I was a pretty average player, but I was just always fit. So I used to just tackle. And then I actually hurt my other bicep that I had a hematoma, 5 centimeters by 2.5. So it was like an old Nokia phone, the brick one. That's how big the hematoma was. Then I was PTing at the time, being a contractor. I couldn't work for a few weeks. I couldn't drive the car because it was stuck at a right angle for like 3 weeks. I couldn't even drive because I couldn't drive the manual. So I was like, I'm not playing rep. I'm not going to make NRL. So I ended up giving up football. I did miss my club, but at the same time, the drinking culture is probably not the best as well.
Yeah. I'm sure it'd be a big drinking culture in the footy
especially
world.
Especially up north in Cairns too.
We'll just sit around and drink pretty much and stay on air conditioning. Nice. So were you you played footy from when you were like?
From under sevens, I played all the way through. So I played club Ivanhoe. Shout out to Ivanhoe's back in Smithfield. So I played for a long time with them. I played like schoolboys rugby union a lot. So a lot of my junior years, I actually did taekwondo. My dad used to teach. So I actually started when I was 5, and I got kicked out after a bit because I talked too much in class. I guess it was also because my dad was teaching. I was just very comfortable. So I got kicked out because I had to learn. Or the fact of like I have to be another student. I wasn't special. So I learned that at a young age that you have to earn your ranks in any martial arts stuff. So it was pretty funny. I was also talking because my dad was an instructor. Like when I was young, sometimes like I did something wrong. I like get 100 push-ups. This is like some of the mentality. So as I was going to go on to that, when you talk about doing all the swimming, we already talked about not having a lifestyle as your PT. Like I didn't understand how people didn't have some eating habits, because I grew up, having breakfast, come home, have a snack because I got to go train and whatever. Like, I had kind of this whole food, meat, veg, have some carbs, rice or pasta. Yeah. Like, it was ingrained into me, and it took me a long time until I did my nutrition and stuff to like, oh, people know nothing. About it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a really good point. I actually didn't think of is, there is some like nutritional components as a child that you have sort of applied to yourself without really, delving into things too much. But, the prioritization of, protein, like what are your different sources of protein, carbs, to fuel training performance, like what are your different sources of carbs and meal timings and that sort of thing. So you've kind of like had some experience with all of that, and then it sort of becomes common sense. But
and I thought it was common sense. It wasn't until later on, like, when I said to, like, I still sometimes today, but I'm more aware of it when I'm like, all right, what's protein? And they normally go, oh, whey powder and steak. And they don't know anything else outside that. One of my other questions was favorite nutrition hacks. Ooh. So what would be your number one, I guess would say, like, is a common problem that comes up? With new clients, let's say.
With new clients, with new clients with a low level of nutritional literacy, I would say it's just honestly the prioritization of fruits, vegetables, and lean quality sources of protein. Like the amount of people who can't even really list 5 different types of vegetables or fruits that they like. Or 5 different types of protein sources that they could add to a meal or something like that, So, plants and protein. When I say plants, I'm not talking about pulling leaves off a tree, but, your fruits and vegetables, prioritizing plants and protein in each of your meals. And that way you're, 1, promoting health because you feel providing your body with a variety of nutrients. 2, you're getting in some fiber. And 3, you're enhancing you're stimulating muscle protein synthesis, especially if you're having regular protein feeding. So it's not only going to benefit you from a satiety point, but also from, a muscle growth and strength goal outcome. Like if that's
beautiful answer.
And then obviously the 4th one would be like, it's very diverse. You can do so much with those foods. So
eat the rainbow.
Eat the rainbow, exactly. But nobody wants to eat the rainbow. Nobody wants to eat their protein. They want to, drink some apple cider vinegar and hope that that's the cure to their that's the way to achieve fat loss results. But it really is just getting in your fruit and veg and eating your protein.
The biggest thing is prioritization. That's actually one of my pillars in Training with Hope I have. And people still struggle. They try to, like, with flexible dieting and tracking, they still don't track ahead, like pre-plan and enter. That's probably one of the common things I find. They just like, they have an idea, they're going to have this for breakfast, this for lunch and dinner, and they kind of track, but they're tracking on the fly. They're not prioritizing and planning ahead. And I always have the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it rings every single time. Even though in my short course, it says it in there and I highlight it, people fall into that trap all the time. Yeah. So that if anyone's listening, plan ahead, god dang it.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a really common one, actually. Yeah, not planning ahead. And then you look at what they're inputting in there. I don't know if you look at their data entries of what they put into MyFitnessPal, and they're just so random. I'm like, what's your dinner meal? Like, I'm seeing all this random food, like, mishmash together. And they're like, oh, like, I had a lot of calories left over to play with. So I just kind of like, just ate on the fly and then put it all into MyFitnessPal. And I was like, you didn't actually like make it think of a meal before, consuming it. You just kind of like ate it and then, I don't know. So yeah, plan it time, guys.
Mind you, I love throwing a meal together, like later in the week when I'm kind of like getting a bit low on veggies. I will do it sometimes, but it's more of a fun challenge for me where I'll grab like 5 things out of the fridge, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll like throw it into a meal and try and make a new concoction of things. But but I don't want to do that every day. Like, not every day.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. So moving on. So with your best achievement. So you did national level with your swimming. So would you put that at the top there, or would you have other achievements that you would put on a higher pedestal?
Yeah, I guess that would be an achievement, like a sporting achievement. In terms of like, I guess, personal growth, development sort of, I guess, achievement would be recovering from anorexia nervosa.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was towards the end of grade 12, I started getting into like I started really becoming addicted to the nutrition side of things, as well as like excessive amounts of training, because I had quit swimming. All I knew was train every single day and work your ass off. And then obviously I dabbled into the nutrition side, and I wasn't looking at, I guess, the right places. And I was severely undereating, severely restricting myself, and I did develop an eating disorder, anorexia nervosa. So I went from weighing 58 kilos, like a healthy 58 kilos. And then my lowest body weight was 38 kilos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was hospitalized during the end of it, after my diagnosis. And then, yeah, pretty much from there, it was a huge mental battle, essentially, to try and get myself physically healthy, but also mentally healthy as well.
Yeah, obviously mentally with it. So I guess if we unpack that, you thought you were doing really healthy, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
What you're taking and working hard, I'm sure you would have. What was that point when you like ended up in hospital and told like you were diagnosed? Like, how was that? Because that must have been a real brain fuck.
It was. It was a brain fuck. It didn't really hit me until I saw my dad cry. And it was the first time in my life I had seen my dad cry. And I was like, okay, I'm not only making my body upset with me, because my body hated me. My body was like, why are you starving yourself? Like, we're hungry. But I was making those around me, my loved ones, upset as well. Because they were obviously involved with it to a certain degree. So that was probably the ticking point, was seeing my parents upset and genuinely concerned of my health. I was still a little bit stubborn, to be honest. Like, I saw numerous psychologists, and I didn't like them because I essentially just didn't want to eat more, train less. Yeah. And I was so happy with what I had achieved to get to that point. I didn't want to feel like I had to do the opposite and go backwards. So I was stuck in this like stubborn headspace. But I had to really like trust my guts, trust the doctors, trust the specialists, trust the psychologists, and also like trust my family. So honestly, like I guess the light bulb moment that made me like, okay, Anita, like you've got to actually like fix this. Like, you have an issue, was admitting that I had an issue. Like, I didn't want to admit that I had an issue. Admitting that I had an issue, and that took a lot of weight off my shoulders, because I was like, okay, like I have an issue, I need to sort it out.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, basically just going through the process step by step. And yeah, working with alongside psychologists to make sure that I was, you know, putting my headspace in the right place. But yeah, so that was probably the turning point for me. So
along that road, were there other light bulb moments because obviously you were doing it because you were told this is what you should do, but it felt like it was going against all your hard work. And kind of, I guess your ego may have been like, no, we've been working hard. Let's not give up all this. What was a moment along that where light bulb went off like, oh, I am on track. This is actually healthier for me?
Yeah, good question. So coming from I think the swimming background has helped, or a sporting background had helped, but performance had always been, I guess, a big part of my life. Performing well in training. And as soon as I sort of tried to shift my focus away from, I guess, the hole that I dug myself into, and sort of shifting my focus to, how about I start trying to get stronger in the gym? How about I start to, focus on feeling good during my sessions, feeling good after my sessions, and
as in not like completely frying yourself red.
Yeah, exactly right. and being okay with rest days because I need a rest day so I can perform better the next day, and that sort of thing. So it was more like a shift in my priorities. And even when it came to like eating, that was a big issue, because I used to hide in my room and eat because I didn't like my parents saying you need to put more food on your plate. Like that used to really trigger me, and I used to get so angry and so upset about it. So I sort of like started to eat with my family. That was like the first sort of like stepping stone, I guess. Enjoying the social aspect, focusing on the social aspects rather than focusing on the actual food that I was consuming. So it was more just like shifting my focus on the benefits of what I was trying to do, but not focusing on exactly what I was doing. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So obviously eating more was a benefit, but it's the other things around it, like the socializing, the lifestyle with it. And that just remind me of a quote, because post-comp bodybuilding, and I'd always tell clients, because they know they want to eat all those things. And I used to even make lists of places I wanted to eat over the weeks of diet prep. I'm like, I want to eat this Macca's burger and whatever that was out at the moment, and go through these different Toblerone chocolate. I want to have this. And I have this crazy list. And then later on I figured out it's not the quantity of the food, it's the quality, but even more, it's the quality of people you enjoy it with. So that was a saying I would say to people. So I used to try to organize like a dinner afterwards or something where we would get together, maybe have a wine and share a dessert. That's a common hack as well that I normally tell people when you're out, eating out, share your dessert. Don't have the whole one to yourself. Don't be a fat hole. Just like share it. And also enjoying the flavors with someone. Like you enjoy it more because you talk about it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like all in and around my mouth is delicious. And so that's another good thing. So, all right. So the social aspect of, I guess, bonding with your family was a light bulb for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, as especially when I had gone so long without that, I kind of missed it. So it was a good turning point for me.
Cool. So before we move on from that topic, if you have a big message for anyone that is struggling with anorexia and who may listen in, or borderline eating disorders, what would be your number one tip for that person?
Oh, number one tip. Honestly, it would probably be to just reflect on your why a lot. Like I think, for me anyway, I was glued. I was glued to the process, but sometimes I would step away from the process because I was like, why am I doing this kind of thing? And I would be, I guess, less compliant, or I would lose adherence. I would start sort of going back down in that deep hole, because it's not going to be like an upwards, battle or an upwards success. It's not like a linear progressive
with anything, right?
Anything, exactly. Like there's going to be some downward slopes and spirals and that sort of thing. But before you regress, just reflect all the way back to the start on like why you're going through this process, and what kind of person do you want to be once you reach that end goal. Like what sort of person do you want to become? And I feel like when you have that in your mind, it sort of gives you that self-motivation, or gives you that drive to continue pushing forward, because there's going to be one side of your brain that's going to be like, nah, why are you doing this? Just go back to your old habits because it's easier. We always want to go back to what was easier.
What you're familiar with.
Which is, something that you're comfortable with, or something that you're, familiar with. So you sort of have to pull yourself into an area where you're not comfortable with, and just trust that process and, go from there.
That just remind me of another quote. Obviously, social media, there's always quotes and stuff. But a lot of people aren't living the lives that they love because they're scared of letting go of the life that they like. So it's like, oh, I'm kind of happy, and they're scared of kind of giving that up. And I was definitely in that when I kind of stepped away from bodybuilding, and I was kind of half coaching and stuff, and but I didn't have a drive or something, or I guess working towards. I was just hoping to plod along. I wanted to have some downtime, and I just fell into this like, oh, this is fun. I like this, but actually no, it was just downward spiral, just really complacent. So moving on from that one there, I did write mental battles, but obviously we talked about that. I guess when it comes to swimming, I guess mental battles with swimming. What was the hardest with that? Like, let's say event day or coming up, like peak week for nationals with swimming.
Yeah.
What was some of the biggest mental challenges you found? Are you a nervous person? Like, do you get like really bad butterflies, or do you just zone in when it comes to comp day?
I used to, but I think when I first started competitive swimming, I was like 9 or something like that. I was very nervous. Like, there was actually an embarrassing story. Nobody knew at that point in time, but I pissed myself on the diving blocks. Like, that's how nervous I was. Yeah. But like, nobody could tell. So I felt sorry for the person who had to stand on the block.
Hopefully you were hydrated.
Yeah, I was hydrated. But yeah, like I was a very nervous person, but I guess like after experience, I became a lot more confident within myself, and the butterfly sort of went away. But like peak week for nationals, I would probably say mental struggle, if I can even remember. It was all such a blur.
A lifetime ago.
Because I only qualified for one event. I think that was probably the main thing, was I put a lot of pressure on myself because I only qualified for one event.
And that was?
And it was 100 backstroke.
Yeah.
100 meter backstroke. Because I only qualified for one event, I was like, I literally only have one chance, like, to do well. I either make it through this heat and make it to finals, or I literally swim 100 meters and I fail. And the past year of training 10 sessions a week for 2 hours was a complete waste of time. So I think the mental struggle for me was putting less pressure on myself and just focusing on what I needed to do rather than what if.
Yeah. So when you had to focus, like, did you break that down, or how did you kind of build the focus of what you needed to do? What did that compile of?
I guess I just focused on, I segmented the race. Well, my coach helped me with like segmenting the race. Like, okay, you know, like I need to make sure that I have a really fast start. I get out past the flags underwater. I'm, you know, turning. I've got a good turnover of my arm speed. I make sure I hit that wall and, you know, in my tumble turn, make sure that I come out of that with speed as well, and make sure that I am, you know, maintaining a good rate of speed for the final 15 meters. From there, make sure my legs are ticking over. Like, so it's sort of like dissecting it down to what are my specific tasks.
Did you kind of get robotic with those terms? Like, is that when you start, it was like Q, where it's almost like you're just giving yourself mental cues for all those things?
Yeah, it did become very robotic. Yeah.
When I was powerlifting, that was definitely, as soon as I walk out to the bar, I'll do my little 1, 2, 3 with each finger. I had like my little 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then I'll step back and I'll like lock hips, deep breath, and always just be robotic, and there'll be no, I guess. And if something moved a little bit, I would just go back to my cues, but maybe focus on that cue more. But I wouldn't change my cues. Yeah,
definitely. It's like a habitual sort of process that you have before even, you know, getting under the bar sort of thing. And same with me with my swimming. It was like making sure it was like, you know, flip my ear under the swimming cap, and then, you know, right first, then left ear, and then, you know, put my goggles on, and then pull the straps tight, and then it was like fix this strap, and then it was always 2 big breaths out through my cheek. Like, there was like a habitual thing that I had to do, and that's sort of, I guess, what took my focus away from nerves and stuff like that to just, what do I need to get done?
I remember seeing a study ages ago, and I'm probably gonna, it was just something along the line of creating a habit of whatever it may be that before you perform a task, it helps prime your nerves to get ready to fire in that sense. So like in the powerlifting, so I'll do that. My body would start priming and be ready to squat and all those nerves. So, geez, it was a long time I had even looked over it, but I now use it with all my clients. Like, what is your little routine? Because people just start forming it anyway. Like, I know some girls do a certain hair flick and they just kind of naturally do it. So anyone who is listening, take note of that and like almost write it down. I actually wrote mine in note form, what I would actually do, so I knew exactly what it was. So when it came to that heavy lift, it's not like, oh my God, this is fucking heavy, it's going to crush me. It's like I just started doing my process.
Yeah, definitely.
So touching on powerlifting, is that in the books for you? Do you want to compete?
Well, I actually did dabble into powerlifting. So when once I sort of recovered from anorexia physically, it took me a longer time to recover mentally. Once I recovered physically, that's when I started getting into the strength training side of things. So I watched a lot of Elliot Hulse on YouTube, and and I was like quite interested or very interested in the strength training side of things, strongman lifting, powerlifting. I thought that was really cool. And so I did, I dabbled into CrossFit first, actually.
Okay.
I was like, oh, these, I need to look at girls who train really well. They, they look fucking strong. And I sort of was like really drawn to that. And, I guess like their work ethic involved with it and that sort of thing, very like athlete specific, rather than sort of like bodybuilding kind of thing. And I kind of wanted to step away from focusing on my image. I was like, let's start, looking at performance and strength training. So I got into CrossFit. I did one session. And more than anything, I enjoyed the Olympic lifting side of things. Okay. I did Olympic lifting for about just under a year, and I did compete in that. Awesome. And what
did you lift?
Sorry?
What did you lift on the day?
What did I do? I did it wasn't much. I think it was a 55 clean and jerk. And I think it was 47 snatch. I can't quite remember. And
is that around 60 kilos or?
I was 58 kilos.
Okay.
Yeah, so I competed in the 58 category. But I learned a lot, like from a technique perspective, like how technical movements are. And then after that, I was kind of like, I kind of want to squat, bench, and deadlift. So then I got into powerlifting. And how I got into powerlifting was, you know what, I'm just going to like wing it and do a powerlifting meet. No coach, no prep, no nothing. Literally knew nobody.
I did the same.
You did the same?
I was 18. I was learning off YouTube.
Yeah, me too. I was watching like Omar Isuf, Super Training, Mark Smalley-Bell, through. Competed, and then that's when I bumped into I don't know if you know Thomas Lilly.
I hired Thomas ages ago.
Oh, awesome.
I'm just trying to think. I had Mel from 1RM for a little bit because Will and I both hired Mel. I don't know if she's still coaching anymore, 1RM, and then I think he ended up getting Thomas for a bit.
Okay.
I had a bit of a break, and then because I did bodybuilding, and I came back, and I got him to do a bench press deadlift. There was a Mackay comp. So I did those.
Oh, yeah, like a push-pull comp sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Fuck yeah. What a legend. I learned so much from him. I got it. I was a client of his for close to a year, actually. And then the army happened, so I didn't end up competing. But I was working towards doing a comp. But yeah, the army happened, so I just, basically left.
Army screwed you on many things, huh? So since you didn't get that powerlifting comp, is it on your to-do list, your bucket list?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
So I'm really into bodybuilding at the moment. Like that is my passion at the moment. And
would you classify as a power builder now?
I don't know, because I don't barbell squat, so I can't really call, and I don't barbell deadlift either, nor do I barbell bench, so I can't really call myself.
You're definitely a bodybuilder right now.
Yeah, definitely a bodybuilder. I'm all like with machines and stuff like that, froth over getting a pump and that. so yeah, I'm very much into the hypertrophy specific training side of things. And I think because I had kind of done all the strength training side of things, not that I had competed it seriously or competitively, but I sort of mentally, I was like, you know what, I'm in a good mental position to start working on what I wanted to focus on at the very start of this whole fitness journey. So I'm kind of like trying to maybe finishing off what I started kind of thing, just going back to my roots of like of the beginning of my journey, which was trying to work on my image. And now that I'm in a healthier position mentally to be able to pursue that, I'm like, I want to really nail it this time and do it well and finish it. So I anticipate on competing next year, season B. And then after that, we'll see. And maybe I might dabble into powerlifting again. But yeah.
So what do you want to compete in? In what division? What's your class?
The division I want to compete in is wellness. Like I love the, you know.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking that would suit you well.
Yeah. So I love that physique. I just don't think I'm big enough for it yet. So I'm like, well, the stage ain't going anywhere. So, you know, I can always just grow and build towards that. I could probably fit into figure, but I don't want to just go into a comp into a category that I fit in. Like I want to go into a category that I want to compete in. So hence why
I guess there's two elements of that, because sometimes it's good to fit in that category to get experience, to do the peak week and that and understand. Because I know I've known some people like train for 2 years to get on stage and then their peak week gets fucked. Like I had a girl once and then her period came like 2 days before.
Oh,
and then, so she ended up like bloating a bit in her stomach, and like because she was doing bikini and you could kind of see the abs look great, and then bloating came in, like, oh, and she had only planned to do the one show, and then she was really disheartened. But she did, and sometimes you should do at least. I'm a big believer in doing at least 2 shows in the season because you always learn a little bit better.
Well, she'll still got her period during prep. That's unusual. A lot of girls lose it after being in a deficit.
Yes, and I'll say myself, even coaching, I've actually done that with girls before in the past, just cutting them too hard. So I apologize. I guess when you're pushing for figure and some of that stuff, there is some element. You don't have to, but with bikini, it's not necessary.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think also with competing, it's everybody wants to compete now. You know, and I
was doing it before it was cool.
Back
in 2010. I was 68 kilos when I first competed.
68.
That's I was in the WMBF, this bad boy here behind me. Bantamweight, WMBF, which was at the time like they didn't last long in Australia, but I won a state title. I didn't think I was like, whatever. I remember I called my mum that I had won the junior and bantamweight. She's like, what? Little you won a bodybuilding show? I was like, yeah, I won. And then I did the Townsville A&B show and got smashed in the juniors because it was juniors and those dudes like 9 kilos. Yeah. Right. But that's where I was hooked. My first show, I won 2 divisions. I was hooked since because I won off the bat. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So how long was it between, from bodybuilding, did you then transition to powerlifting? Or were you kind of doing both?
Kind of. So when I was 18, 19, I did powerlifting first. And funny story, because I was learning online, and this is going back, 14, 15 years ago. Social media wasn't the way it was, so getting information was a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So I learned, also my bad, I probably didn't look up the rule books as well with IPF because it was actually equipped. So I had a squat suit and bench shirt. But I learned to bench with my heels off the ground, and this is IPF. So I got red lighted. So I technically bombed out, but because it was a small comp, they let me deadlift as well. Okay. And I still end up getting third because I squatted, I think it was like 180 and deadlifted 200 at 18. And I was like 80 kilos and I still beat some of the other.
That's a solid deadlift.
Yeah. I was pretty strong. Yeah. I was squatting like even in the gym 180 for like doubles.
Jesus
I
Christ.
like, still before I even hit my 20s. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I was pretty fun. Like, and one of the guys was like, if you learn to bench properly, you'll do okay. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so, I still got third and beat some dudes with their 3 lifts because they were like squatting like 150, benching 80 kind of thing. This is obviously a very small comp back in the day. But I pursued that. But then when I was 21, I did my first bodybuilding comp. So sadly, only 68 kilos, but I did some pretty poor nutrition as well. I had a coach to tidy some things up, kind of keto, no fruit, no dairy. So I kind of developed some lactose. I'm lactose sensitive now. Since that, it's a lot better since I reintroduced it. So, yeah. But over the years, my last show, I competed in the under 85s. So I went from 68 kilos to 85. So and being leaner. So even though I'm not a big guy, I put on a lot of muscle mass on my frame over that time. But in between,
you did that by yourself? Sorry.
So a lot of it I did. There was 2014. I hired a coach. He was online from Portugal and did some of that crazy training. And that was the first. I hired a coach that time because that's when I started using PEDs. So I hired a coach to learn more about it. So obviously, hence extra weight to gain. I was doing some of my own from what I had learned beforehand, doing some real basic stuff. But I also lab ratted myself. I wanted to learn more about it.
Good.
But I really kind of got into it as well because I got sick of getting second place or third place with some dudes winning, which was a bit sketchy. So I was a bit like, right, maybe if you can't beat them, join them.
Strong mindset.
Yeah. So, but really the main reason, like, I've never thought I'd be an amazing athlete. And like, I was always I picked up things quickly, but I was never at the top. I always wanted to be a coach, hence like being a PT straight out of school. So the main reason I did that stuff was to learn about it so I could teach, have first-hand experience. But yeah, so my last few seasons where I probably like came in my best, I still coached myself, which was tough. And in hindsight, looking back, there were definitely some mistakes made. So if I do compete again, I probably will hire a coach. But again, I don't know if I'll ever compete again, especially that I ruptured my bicep or I completely tore the long head off. So I don't know if I can deadlift again, just because I don't know if you can see like it.
Oh, what? What?
It's gross.
Do it again?
So the long head, so the outer one is no longer attached.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so like a little bit after COVID, when it had happened, I tore it in judo, so completely the long head's off. I think there's a smidgen still attached because it hasn't completely dropped all the way down. But then one of the surgeons I was referred to dicked me around to even book me in for my first appointment. So I said, fuck you guys, I'm going to get the specialist nearby. And then because he was a specialist, he was already busy, and COVID had pushed only allowed to do so many surgeries per day because so many people going through and stuff. So I was like 10 weeks, like he could get me in. And I was like, oh shit. And plus with that, you don't technically need your long head. It kind of acts like a rotator and also supination with your forearm also aids in. They said if you're over 50, we wouldn't even bother, but because you're young and athletic. And by the time it come around to 10 weeks, I could do chin-ups again. I could do like 5 chin-ups, and I was doing movements, and it wasn't hurting it at training. I was back rolling kind of with my arm just half held in or inside my belt at JIT. So, so I don't know if I ever will, but I guess I'll probably look sick with a rear double bicep with the extra peak I've got now.
Definitely.
Because I don't even lift at all anymore. A lot of people think So was it July? I haven't lifted since July last year.
Bullshit, really?
Yeah.
So have you just been doing
just jiu-jitsu,
like body weight movements and jiu-jitsu sort of thing?
Yeah, so jiu-jitsu, we do push-ups and stuff at home. I call them roly-polies, but they're just like our solo drills where we do, I guess you would always call it like animal flow stuff. Like that's what's more known commonly in the fitness industry, but they're just jiu-jitsu movements when I'm rolling and stretching and mobility stuff. So sometimes I run down to the park and do push-ups and dips and chin-ups there, but I don't actually follow any lifting routine. I've just started Muay Thai now, so I train Muay Thai twice a week, or try to, and I do jits 5 days a week. So jits is like 90 minutes, and we do some warm-ups and fitness. So I'm actually trying to cut weight. I'm the lightest I've been in like 8 years now, been 83, 84.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to get back into lifting later this year.
Sure,
because I'm going to be starting at UFC gym soon. So I'm going to make it somewhat, I'm going to do a little bit more sport stuff like Zercher lunges and some other body weight stuff like 180 landmines. I've got like a little bit of a program, but I stopped because it's been delayed with the gym, so I'm not putting too much time into that until I can get my hands on the weights and start being there.
Yeah, sure. So are you planning on competing in jits once you're, strong and able to, or? Yeah,
so I hope that there's even next month or so.
Oh, okay.
But the only thing is now, because I had a few ruptures last year, because I ruptured at the elbow before I tore that one.
Yeah.
So I had a few, and I also ruptured my calf last year. But now that I'm a blue belt, I'm like the bottom rank of it, because normally you get like 4 stripes kind of thing, and then you go up. So like I'm going to compete, but I also don't have huge aspirations just yet, because I'm the shit guy of this rank yet. I still need a lot more. I've only got 1 stripe. So I do want to compete, and I like having a day. So this year I've made it a priority for work. Yeah. So I want to really get that up and running. So we'll see how that goes. And plus I'm going to get shredded for the gram, because that just gets more likes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I haven't posted up a butt pic in a while, so maybe I'm due for that.
All right, I'll make sure to comment.
Yep.
Your favorite gym exercise or hack?
Favorite gym exercise, pendulum squats.
Yeah.
Such a
they're disgusting
exercise. Yeah. I remember when I first started, I was like, 10 kilos. I slept on 10 kilos. I was like 3 reps deep, and I got stuck at the bottom. And I was like, fuck me. So like my first 2 weeks of my program, I just had no weight. But pendulum would definitely be my favorite.
And what would be a gym hack that's something that kind of clicked and then made lifting easier, or removing weights or something?
So it would probably be if you're vertically challenged, i.e. you're a short ass like me, is with creeper curls, just because of the seat is so high. The armrest is high with the seat rest.
So your butt doesn't touch when you're on it.
Yeah. So you're better off sort of standing and like leaning over it.
Yeah.
The same goes if you're using not that I really use it, but the rear delt machine fly, standing up. Otherwise, like you're literally face planting the seat. You're like kissing the back seat. So standing up and over it. There was one gym hack, and I was like, I need to like talk about it on Instagram. I completely forgot. So those are like the main ones. Would just be if you're vertically challenged, the machines won't fit you in most cases. So just work your body with it.
Yeah, gotcha. That's a good one. I'll throw one in there for any people that will say big around the waist. When it comes to doing seated row, you use the rope handle, like the tricep pull down, and you touch that, because then you can pull it past your waist. You're not hitting your stomach and not getting that full, contraction through your shoulder blades. So that's a good little gym hack as well.
You're getting that little bit of extra range of motion.
Yeah, and I remember doing this ages ago, because a few of my clients would feel uncomfortable bumping in their stomach, and so that's what I found that was a good one, where they could feel more range. And it's just simply removing something where they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Actually, I just remembered it. So the crucifix raises, the with the cuffs. Okay, so firstly, if you don't have cuffs at your gym, but you've got the D handles, not the metal D handles, but the plastic one, You can actually just slip your hand in that and use that. But with crucifix raisers, if you can't really set yourself up within cable machines or it's really busy or something like that, you can use the dual cable seated
we spoke of this,
and slip your hands through the handles and use it that way.
Yeah, that's disgusting. It's awesome, but disgusting.
Yeah.
I thought I remembered one now. I just went blank. Oh, so actually with that, I went through this phase because I was like learning about when you don't grip, say doing pull downs, you're taking out your forearms, serving energy and focusing on the lats. So I actually ended up getting like those cuffs and putting it onto a chain and looping it over the chin-up bar. And I used to put my hands in the cuffs and then do chin-ups, but they're like free hanging from my wrist. And I loved them until one day one of the cuffs broke. And I then went boom, landed straight onto my knee flat. I actually have a dent in my kneecap still from this day. I wouldn't be surprised if I fractured it. And then the chain whipped around and then like whipped me on the leg. I must have looked like the biggest idiot. So I thought I'm a hero, like not hanging on with this like BDSM looking contraction hanging off with.
So like, I'm doing so well, I'm so smart, and then you just get snapped off it.
It was one of the best for my lats because I used to train a lot with my lats. I was like, if anything, lats was my best attribute as a bodybuilder, and I always had shit arms. And one of my coaches told me I had what was the term? Glaringly weak arms. It was the actual term I received in the email, and I still haunts me to this day. One, they are small, but two, my lats had overshadowed them. But yeah, you don't need to do that exercise to build big lats. Just pull downs and stuff is fine.
Pull downs, yeah. That's nice. Well, I'll be waiting for a gym fail video of you.
Well, again, this is a long time ago before, like, I remember around that time I used to take my old laptop and then use the webcam on it to film some of it. Like, this is before because I'm 33 this year. So going back to when I was 18, like, we had like Snake on our phones, right? We didn't have camera phones, right? So this was so one of the last thing I had written was mindset tools. What are some mindset tools that you help, whether it's if you feel yourself getting into a bad rut or whether it's priming yourself for training? What are some of your go-to mindset tools?
Mindset tools. Well, if going into training, for some reason, I can't train well if I'm stressed, anxious, or angry or upset. Like, I need to be cool as a cucumber when I head to the gym or before I even step foot in the gym. Otherwise, I'm just going to have a shit session. Yeah. So I can't actually – a lot of people use anger as an emotion to elicit some sort of an enhanced benefit towards their training. But I'm not like that for some reason. I need to be in a calm state. So sometimes I will even play calm music in my head. So
like Adele? What's your top track?
Oh, my top track, like Paramore, Evanescence, like, the sort of like slow stuff, or like acoustic music, or even like classical music. Just something that's gonna like calm me down a little bit. And then it might start getting like a little bit heavier if I start to feel a little bit better. But definitely I need to be in a calm state before I train. So that would probably be my main one in regards to training anyway. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of Logic when I was playing.
Oh yeah, Logic.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff about like I guess like self-help and mental awareness. So that's something that I found when I was younger. I used to listen to like Disturbed and DMX, and I used to try to like dive into. But I found I would leave those sessions like feeling ruined, like a wreck, and I maybe wasn't even getting as much. And I think it was like probably too much emotional energy, anger into it. There was a point like Will and I used to take the sniffing salts into training, and we were like trying to slap each other on the back and try to do this. And you just be ruined halfway through the session. Later on, we're just like, we can't do it because we just lose focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is I need to be calm in between my sets. So sometimes I'll even pause my music in between sets, and then I'll play my music right before I'm about to do my set. So I don't know, whatever I'm listening to, Infant Annihilator or whatever, I will pause it while I'm resting, and then just before, like as I'm getting ready to go, I'll hit play again. Just because I can't be hyped. I don't think anyone can really be so hyped for a good 60 minutes continuously, you know? Like that's a lot of like mental energy that you're probably draining out.
Back in my day, we had the Jack 3D and Mesomorph stuff, which was like almost crack. So, some of the sessions we would stay so hyped.
Yeah.
Probably why I got so shredded as well.
Oh, wow.
Wow. But I remember I would like literally then go home, crash, have a nap, and then eat, and then go back to work. But that was the joys of being a PT, doing the split shift kind of stuff where I could nap. So to wrap this up, do you have any messages that you would like to get out? Do you have
any messages?
If you don't have any messages, what do you have coming up? What's exciting?
What's exciting for me? I don't actually have anything really exciting, to be honest.
Just business.
I guess because like last year my focus was discharging from the army and moving back home, which is Brisbane, because I was posted in Townsville. So because that was my sole focus, now that I've got that, I'm kind of like, I think I might settle. I've been like traveling and bouncing around for so long and having like different like changes and goals and career, like, you know, different career changes and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, now I just want to like settle here, prioritize, you know, my business, and just focus on myself for a little bit, or focus on the now anyway, rather than long term sort of thing. But yeah.
So if anything, up and coming season B 2023.
23, next year. For sure.
Cool. And then you'll be qualified then with your new course that you're doing.
That would probably be my next big goal is just completing my diploma in performance nutrition. I am working now with athletes, which is pretty exciting. So now that I'm building up like a really good level of a good enough level of education to be able to like work with not just general population clientele, but also specific population or like athletes, and working within that area in like performance nutrition, which is
So what kind of athletes are you working with right now?
What kind of athletes? So I would like to work with like the strength athletes, obviously, because my training.
That's what you're passionate about,
what I'm passionate about. So definitely within that area. Although I have, you know, a few different athletes that are, you know, within team sports. I've got a few rugby players. I've got a triathlete. So I've got a diverse range there, but probably once I get my qualifications, that might be an area that I would like to sort of like funnel myself into, is like the strength.
Branch into.
Yeah.
Make your niche.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably my message that I'll put out is like, if you are going to be stepping in the coaching world, everybody wants to be an online coach for starters. But I really think people need to spend time working as a PT on a gym floor first before going in the online space, like understanding how people move. Because a lot of people who just sit all day, they don't even know how to squat, you know, you know, their movements are pretty poor, and to be able to recognize those errors and how to manipulate, you know, certain exercises that work for them, how to gain range of motion and that sort of thing, just work with them from a one-on-one perspective before sort of going, I'm going to be an online coach sort of thing. And that way, when you see people training online just from a video, you can see like it's much easier to, you know.
You pick it up. You don't have to sit there and go frame by frame. Like quite often now where I see it and like knees are caving, and I'll ask one or two questions, whether it's their footwear or, you know, they're trying to corkscrew, whatever it is, and then go, okay, from here, let's work on that. And also, I guess, if with any PTs coming up, reduce how many cues you give someone at one time.
Yeah.
I used to fall into do this, do that, because I would have 5 or 6 cues that I would go to. But yeah, you can't overload them. 1 or 2 cues, let them improve, and then build on them.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And probably my second message would be just going back to what you mentioned is having a niche. So if you are going to step into, you know, the PT world, the coaching world, have a niche, you know, don't try to specialize in every single area within health and fitness. Specialize in areas that you enjoy working with, you know, because obviously you got to enjoy your work. So specialize within, you know, a specific area and be damn good at it, you know, really nail the shit out of it.
Yeah. Awesome.
And
that's great.
Always be a student, you know. You should never just do your cert 3 and 4 and watch a few YouTube videos online and that's your knowledge base. Like
you don't know shit.
You don't know shit.
I'm 15 years in and still learning heaps. Let alone what I learned has changed as well.
Staying on top of the research, staying on top of, you know, updated information and new methods and protocols and approaches, and then have, you know, an individualized approach to that to, you know, better work with your clients. But yeah, that would be my main message.
Awesome. Alrighty. So what's your Insta tag? So it's Anita Baz at
Coach Baz. I changed it. Coach Baz. Yeah. So it's just at Coach Baz. And you'll basically find me there. I put up a lot of informative content on there. I do have a website, which is www.anitabaz.com. So you can find like the services that I have to offer and that sort of thing on there.
Awesome. Are you thinking of doing YouTube stuff later on?
Potentially, yeah. I've been talking about it for a while, and people are like, you need to start a YouTube channel, and
it's just another thing to run, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I love putting out informative content. So, you know, maybe if I want to start a YouTube channel and sort of, I guess, have another platform there where I can share more informative content, then I might. Yeah. Awesome.
I'll look forward to it. Maybe I'll start in that video as well. I'll show you how to squat. No joking.
Show me how to hang off a pull-up bar.
Yeah, and hurt myself. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you very much for coming, Anita, and I'll chat to you online as we always do. Ciao.
Cheers.